Welcome to the Cancer Support Suffolk Podcast. Join me, Mark Murphy, and my brilliant guests as we talk about life before, during and after cancer. Hello, I'm Mark Murphy, the CEO of Cancer Support Suffolk, and welcome to our latest podcast, supported by the Suffolk Community Foundation and the Suffolk and North East Essex Integrated Care Board. This time round, we're talking about the important part that counselling can play for a cancer patient or a family member. Well, with me is one of the Cancer Support Suffolk counsellors, Chris Myhill. Chris, thanks ever so much for joining us on this month's podcast. It's great to see you. Thanks for the great work that you do on our behalf. We see the benefits that our clients have after seeing you, and Sally and Eva, our other counsellors. What got you into counselling in the first place?
That's a really good question, yeah. So when I was young, unfortunately my mother died of cancer when I was only 12. So I locked all that away, carried on living, became an adult, and in my 30s had quite a difficult crisis moment and sought counselling for that, which really, really helped. And I worked through that for many years, actually. And I realised how important it was to be able to talk, to be able to express what's actually going on for you inside, because I didn't have anyone to be able to do that with. And the counselling, the therapy that I was doing was vital for my mental well-being and to rebuild myself, really.
And then you decided that you wanted to be a counsellor yourself because of that?
Yeah, I was an advertising photographer in London for many years, and the sort of bottom fell out of that market, and I was thinking of another career, and I was fascinated by what was actually going on in the unconscious world and how to tap into that and how to understand it. And so although I'd worked for quite some time on myself around the bereavement, I was fascinated by what else was going on. And so I decided to retrain.
I was going to say, just what sort of training do you have to undergo? Because a lot of people say, well, I'll talk to someone, but it's a very skilled role that you have, isn't it?
Yeah, I probably agree with you, yes. I did 2 lots of training, one in London and then a second one at the Suffolk University here in Ipswich. However, I think the idea of training for me is that you get some theoretical knowledge. I think the idea of training a counsellor is something that I'd question. I think understanding who one is and then being able to be in the client's world is really important. Whether you can train that or not, I'm not 100% sure. I think that it's important to understand how the unconscious world manipulates how one behaves sometimes.
But you have to have boundaries and guidelines, don't you? And you also have someone that you can go to, you refer to.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. It's really important to set some quite hard and fast boundaries in counselling, time being one of them. It's a 50-minute session. I'm not here to be necessarily a friend. I'm here to be a sounding board for the client. They don't get to know much about me. It's about them. The space is for them. And yes, I do. I have supervision once a month, so I can take whatever I'm concerned about and how to work with to my supervisor.
Because I'm guessing you're only human. You can get, I guess, impacted by some of what you see and hear?
Yes, you can, yeah. Particularly with the cancer work, yeah. As I've just sort of suggested, it's quite close to my heart. Actually, both my parents died of cancer. So one can get triggered. I was quite lucky that I learnt quite early on to bracket things off when the session's finished. I do my best to process it as quick as I can. And then move on, and usually when I walk out of the room, I've left it in the room. But on occasions, it gets to me. Once the client's left, it really can thump you hard, psychologically. But it's a great balancing act because I actually love what I do. I really do. And being in the client's world is such a privilege.
Yeah. Well, we see the work that you do on a weekly basis here, along with the other counsellors, and You really help people to deal with some very, very difficult issues. They've maybe just had a cancer diagnosis, or it's a family member having to deal with someone's cancer diagnosis. It's all of that uncertainty. And I guess you don't really know what's going to walk in the room. There is triage done beforehand, but until you start talking, I guess you don't really know where that's going to go.
No, that's right. I mean, you can only sort of triage or assess to a certain level before people walk in here. I think it's really important to acknowledge what the client is experiencing when they explain what's happening for them. The idea is, like I said earlier, this is their space to express themselves in whichever way they wish to, because potentially they don't have anywhere else where they can say exactly what they want to say without being criticised. So this space is it's confidential, of course. It's also non-judgmental. And I'm not here to direct them and tell them how to live. I'm here purely to hear what they're saying, reflect back what I believe is going on for them in some way, so they can think about how the diagnosis impacts them. And actually we discover quite quickly that one of the biggest impacts, apart from uncertainties you just mentioned, is how it impacts their relationships. And how it really influences how they go about negotiating family, friends, as they go through their cancer diagnosis.
I've spoken to people with who have had a cancer diagnosis in the past, and they've said things to me like, "Oh, you find out who your friends are, and you find out people around the patient deal with it all very differently. Some just run away; they can't cope. And others will be very helpful, sympathetic, empathetic. It's very different for everybody around. So that's why we also include family members in our counselling, and we're seeing more and more of that, because often, they're sitting there wondering, well, what's going to happen to me? I need to stay strong for my partner or child or whoever it is. So the whole cancer diagnosis has a ripple effect, doesn't it?
It really does, yes. And also it's not, so at the moment of diagnosis, there's one set of things to be looking at, and as you go on through that journey, it shifts and changes, and you're right, you do, or the client does get to know who their friends are. Quite often in the therapy room we have to think about how the client is able to express themselves within the family or friends, and quite often they are very afraid to burden others with what's going on for them, and it really is a question of letting them know that actually other people have responsibility to themselves to react in a certain way, and it's not the responsibility of the client to look after the other and not burden them.
And when you see someone for the first time, obviously they're opening up. For them, often it's a big step to come into a counselling session. They might be unsure, they might be nervous, they might have an impression of what counselling is. Quite often we hear people say, oh, well, not really sure about counselling's for me. And it may not be, but what's the worst that can happen after one session? If it doesn't work out, then,
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I think, client who's been diagnosed with cancer, they're not necessarily thinking about counselling or therapy. So allowing them a session to see what it's like is really important, I think. I go back to what I said before, that it's a space that they can express themselves where they may not have that facility anywhere else. And we see quite quickly how it sort of goes off in all different directions, and it's not just usually about the diagnosis, and how all the impacts all around in their life are really can really unsettle them. And I go back to something I said about uncertainty. We are, our psychological makeup is that we want certainty in our lives, and the diagnosis of a cancer is the complete opposite of that. We don't know usually what's going to happen, and even in remission there is always this spectre of will it come back, and trying to deal with that is very, very difficult for the client, and having a space where they can express all of that I think is vital.
Yeah. So someone who's contemplating coming along, what would you say to them?
Well, he's sort of pushing on a door mark push with me with that question. I think it's vital that there is opportunity, that you can express yourself, you can say what you want, in a non-judgmental, confidential space. My experience is that if you voice something, verbalise it, it sort of gives it a form, as opposed to just rattling around in your head. Once it's got a form, you can start really looking at it. It's out in the open, and then the therapist can respond and reflect back and take that idea and those thoughts a bit further. Because quite often a client will have some thoughts or feelings and shut them off pretty quickly because they don't know where to go with it. They have no idea where that's going to lead, and it can be quite frightening, the thought of, if I open up somewhere, where's it going to end? And that's what the therapy room is for. It's a contained space where they can look at that.
This room we're in now is where the counselling takes place. It's a wonderful old Tudor building. It's a million miles away from a hospital environment here. I mean, that all helps, doesn't it? It helps to relax people when they come through. As you say, sessions are 50 minutes. They're free. 6 for a bare minimum, more if need be, between you and the client. Often, you might get to 6 and someone needs another 2 or 3 or something like that. So it's as open as it can be for people to come and access.
Yes, I think it really is. I mean, it is a beautiful space. And like you say, it's not anything to do with the hospital.
And there's free car parking.
Yes. No, it is, I think, because it's not actually in the hospital, not connected with the hospital, I think it allows the client to relax a lot easier. They're not sort of trying to park, as you just suggested, not trying to park in that hospital car park as well. And all of those triggers and reminders are when they had their diagnosis, when they had their treatments. And I think, yes, it's a very, very beautiful space to be working with.
Well, we're very lucky to have you, Chris, along with Sally and Eva, our other 2 counsellors. Thank you very much for sharing just a little bit of your world with us and the importance of counselling. So if you would like some counselling, don't hesitate to get in touch with us here at Cancer Support Suffolk. We also work very closely with the Ipswich Hospital and also the West Suffolk Hospital in Bury St Edmunds. So do get in touch. You can call us on 01473 211 884, 01473 211 884, or you can check out our website cancersupportsuffolk.co.uk for more information. Thank you very much for listening to this episode. Cancer Support Suffolk is passionate about educating and supporting the people of Suffolk, and as a registered charity we rely on donations and fundraising to be able to continue our vital work in the community. So for now, thank you very much for listening.